So this is why this is a gift to me, because I'm a big fan of the author of this piece of work. This is chapter 10 of 1776. It's by John Boyce. It's a story about football in the future in the year 1776. It's a tour de force. If you like the stuff that John does, you'll love this. If you've never seen it before, you'll probably find it really interesting. All the curse words have been changed to bus, which is great. Andy, you are reading the lines of Juice,
sure, which
is a satellite. I am reading Pioneer 9, and Cam is reading Pioneer 10.
Oh.
Did you want to do...
No, I enjoy that.
Okay, that's cool.
So, the thing about this game is that you don't really watch it, because usually there's not any action in the traditional sense. It's like watching a galaxy form in some far-off nebula. There are a million things to study, but things evolve far too slowly to count as action on this scale of time. You could watch it for a week straight and realize the whole time nothing resembling football actually happened. But you don't feel cheated. And why would you? How could you see this and feel cheated?
Oh, look at you. You're using apostrophes. You're punctuating.
Well, this is special to me. I feel like I'm one of the only true appreciators of this game. And the duty of introducing someone to it is one I take very seriously. If I could put a tux on, I would. There are a lot of different ways to behold this game. I like to think of it as a rainbow of failed ideas. Some of these terrible ideas collapsed on themselves and disappeared. Some of these terrible ideas interacted with each other in any number of different ways, and some of these terrible ideas swallowed other less terrible ideas whole. We don't have the details of how exactly all of this came to be. There are some things we know, and there are a lot of very safe guesses and projections. One thing we do know is that this was once an NFL game between the Denver Broncos and Pittsburgh Steelers. It almost certainly started in the 21st century, probably the 2080s or the 2090s. Over the next 15,000 years, the two-team system faded away. Outside teams, people, and interests began to interfere in the game, eventually claiming territory. Any questions so far?
Can we change the channel yet?
No. The game is divided into 58 territories. The Broncos and Steelers each have their own territory. Territory 1 is claimed by the Broncos, who refuse to participate in any of this evolution. Their territory remains completely unaltered. The hash marks are freshly painted, and the players still show up at every Sunday in helmets and pads. They insist, without any success, the game return to how it used to be. A wall stands between their territory and their others, though no one remembers for sure who built it. The Steelers exist but barely. Their territory, which once covered half the field, is now reduced to a single tiny corner. They would have disappeared from the field entirely were it not for the Broncos, who leveraged whatever political power they had to ensure their opponent was still in the game. There's one Steelers player who still comes back every 500 years or so. They call him the Last Steeler. He just kind of drags a stool out there and sits there for an afternoon and then leaves. Nothing much else for him to do up there in the corner, really. Thanks to all the development, he can't even see half the field. I guess he just feels like he should make an appearance now and then. Territories 8, 9, 10, and 11 were plotted out as an attempt to connect the Steelers and Broncos so they could still actually play some kind of traditional football game. But rules on top of rules on top of rules made that possible.
I'm not understanding how.
Don't encourage him.
No, it's okay. How can I help you?
Okay, well, I don't understand how an NFL game went from that to this. This started as a standard NFL game with 15-minute quarters and everything, right?
Yes! And the general consensus is that someone flipped some kind of switch in the rule book. At this point, the NFL was about 150 years old, and over the years, the rule book got larger and larger and became bloated with endless addendums and conditions. Some were added to try to make the game more exciting, and others were added because a particular team or owner insisted. And in a lot of cases, they kept adding rules to properly define a certain element of the game. For example, how do you know if a player has control of the ball?
I don't know, if they're holding the ball and not fumbling it, I guess?
So you just sort of eyeball it, right? You don't conduct a geometric analysis of every biological vector and the location of quadrillions of atomic particles, right? You wouldn't, because having something is an artificial notion. It's a judgment call. If the NFL wanted to preserve what was, it would have backtracked to the point the referees should have been able to call the game as they saw it and felt it. But instead, they tried to define what can't be defined without a supercomputer. They took the catch rule and tacked all kinds of conditions and notes and everything into it. Eventually, the catch section was 50 pages long, and you can only have so many rules until some of those rules begin to contradict each other or stack on each other in different ways. What we believe happened is that during this game, one of the teams cited a constellation of rules from across the rule book and used them to argue that they owned part of the field. And of course, once that became possible, the teams raced to lay claim to as much of the field as they could.
But now there are 58 teams, not 2.
Yep, before long, individual players found that they could also present legal arguments for splintering off into their own factions. For one reason or another, some of them did. There were 4 teams, and 7, and 25. At one point, there were as many as 100. Some of those territories consolidated, and now there are 58. Territories 8 through 11 were originally one unified territory. A bureaucratic tug-of-war splintered them into narrow lanes, which were then further carved apart by interests that had nothing to do with the football game. You can see the remnants of a baseball diamond they once tried to build. Territory 13 is now home to some storage units. Territory 11 is the 49ers attempt at some point in the 67th century to insert themselves as a third team. It's unclear why or what benefit it could have served them. It has been lost to history. Territories 8, 9, and 10 are home to some housing units. These are mostly just rented out to out-of-towners or whatnot.
So this part has nothing to do with football?
Nah, not really. I mean, they don't have a lot of trouble filling it up. People dig the novelty of spending the night in the middle of an NFL game, but tenants' rights do give them authority to make a play on the ball or something.
I wonder what for. If they did get the ball, what would they do with it?
That's a good question. Probably could just try to score in the Broncos or Steelers end zones, but the officials most likely wouldn't give them the points. Hard to know, really. They could also try and score in one of the alternate end zones. See those?
I was just going to ask about those.
Well, those were acquired by players who deserted from the old rosters who insisted on playing their own game inside a game. They thought it was a hopeless try to score as the game was originally drawn up, but they still wanted to play, so they did their best to grab a little land for their
This is so bussing dumb.
own end zones. But they couldn't acquire any territory in between them, and those territories don't like players stomping about in their fields, so that game's kind of not feasible these days, especially because they moved the Bojangles. Now, Bojangles is right in the way...
Whoa!
I know, I thought it was crazy too. Bojangles is primarily a southern chain. I never thought they would expand to Colorado. I firmly believe that on a long enough scale of time, we could see a Kroger in Oregon. Never mind.
I am going to crash into the next asteroid I see.
So where's the ball?
Well, that's the big question. Thanks to a tracking system, we know that the ball is still somewhere in the field, but precise tracking was disabled thousands of years ago. There are plenty of places for it to hide, but there are about 100 permanent residents in this field. One of them should have stumbled upon it by now. I think someone has the world's best hiding place and isn't saying a damn thing. To be honest, though, most of these territories don't even care where the ball is. For the most part, they...
Wait. This is... I don't understand why people would acquire territories in this field if they don't even want to play.
If a piece of property is valuable to someone, it is valuable to everyone. A lot of these territories are held by people holding out for a deal. Could be money, could be anything else. See Territory 56? Thousands of years ago, it was a far larger and more valuable territory. It was once the only access point connecting Territory 17 and Territory 104, which no longer exists. That territory was claimed by a contingent of of fans who demanded that brown mustard be provided in the concession areas. So they...
People still go to this game?
Oh, for sure they do. They don't pack it in like they used to, but 75,000 people bought a ticket for this game back in 2080 or whenever. The stadium's generous re-entry policy lets them come and go. At any given time, there's probably 1,000 people in it.
Don't tell me that.
You didn't know that?
People sit in the stands and watch this busing, but this garbage dump where nothing busing ever happens.
Oh yeah, but Broncos fans are crazy. So anyway, the fans were like, we've got the most crucial territory on the field. Give us some bussing brown mustard or else. And stadium management came back with, we're always looking to give our fans the best fan experience, but unfortunately, our vendors, whatever. So they were like, bus it, and made a lake out of it. And that moment heavily influenced the geopolitical climate of Sports Authority Field at Mile High for centuries. Indeed,
Is that a statue of Sir Walter Raleigh?
Yeah.
Why?
Is there any explanation you would possibly find satisfactory?
No.
I think I'm fascinated by this game.
Yes.
No.
I really am. It's like, look at all the time it's taken to make this game what it is. People have spent forever arguing and negotiating. Wow, look at those skyscrapers. I didn't even ask about those. The resources poured into this field are unbelievable. If they just worked together, think of the amazing game they could have made. They could have made something really cool, like some sort of wild maze or whatever. I don't know, like something that was 10,000 feet tall. But they don't want that. Or maybe they do on some level. They can't work together. It's hideous.
Holy bus, I like you. That is exactly it. That is exactly it. Yo, Ted, I think I know why you hate this, and I love it.
I'll listen if you let me change the channel.
Okay, but we're def gonna watch more of it later, okay?
Whatever.
So, you're American, you're from Florida.
Built in California, launched from Florida.
Right, so I bet you see this, and you see a capitalist error, a capitalism run wild.
Sure, it's too much salt in the soup. Capitalism can't be allowed to run the entire show. There has to be some kind of counterbalance. If there isn't leverage on behalf of the common good, this is what you wind up with. If this game still had a central governing body, 9 is right. There could be something great. But it's a garbage dump. It's a failure.
This is capitalism, you donk. This is what it's supposed to be. This is how it ends. If it isn't there, it's only because it isn't there yet. It's like you're staring at a cake in the oven and wondering if it's gonna be a cake. Things went the other direction in America, and thank God for that, but capitalism deserves a zoo like this one. It's a beast of the wild, as wild as any grizzly bear with fawn's blood in its mouth. I think you see deeds and contracts and bureaucratic bloat and see that something went wrong. Something was always wrong, y'all. I love it. I love to watch it in a zoo where it can't hurt me.
And people are tuning out. We're down to 106 listeners.
People are listening to us? Like, people on Earth?
Well, there were only 98 now. Thanks for that, Juice. Thank you.
Well, when you talk to a 15,754-year-old spacecraft that was built in Toulouse, this is WTF. This is the WTF you get. Sorry for being bored in French.
I love that story so much.
It's really,
So
really
good.
wonderful.
Wow. I don't want to watch football in like 20,000 years.
Who here has read 1776?
A bit of it.
Yeah.
I kind of want to read it now.
I-
Now I have to get that.
It's
Donk.
yeah.
Dog.
Donk, donk.
I didn't remember how long that was, and so when we were about halfway through, I was like, "Wait, is this the really long chapter?" Because it's the description
Yeah.
of the big game, right? And there were no maps or anything. You can go look at all that if you go Google that. You should go watch it. There's a lot of great video and everything attached to it. So that's why I ran to the desk and like, wait, how long is this actually? And I realized, oh wait, there is a payoff.
Yeah.
This does pay off. This isn't the one that's like to be continued next chapter.
No,
It's
no,
like-
yeah. This is.
This isn't the end, but this is
1776 has like the best opening chapter.
yeah. Oh god, it's
This
so
is
good.
insane.
Yeah.
Ben, you haven't read it?
No.
Oh,
the
you're so-
webpage.
You're gonna love
so
it.
lucky.
Look at this. Like
I'm adding this to my read list.
you open the. I was.
Yeah,
I
don't
thought,
don't describe it, but yeah, right. You open it and you're like, wait, what?
I thought I was like. I thought I opened a video or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
What?
This is so like.
You're one today's lucky 17,776.
Yeah.
So this was a. I'm going to close that. Thank you so much. That was a $100 challenge, and I think they
Awesome.
realized because it was long, it was going to eat some time.